and welcome back to my channel and to my series where I talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. My last video in this series was about Cloud and Tifa and Gongaga, and I want to thank everyone who watched that video, liked it, commented, and subscribed. I was floored by the response and how it resonated with you all. Today I'm going to focus on the two female characters in the party and their friendship. There are so many beautiful moments between Aerith and Tifa that go too unnoticed because of the ship wars. Admittedly, I am a Clody shipper, however, that doesn't mean that I will tolerate any hate towards Aerith. One of the biggest things that I despise about shipping wars is how people think it's okay to tear down another character, especially a female character, in order to boost their ship. The fact is that both Aerith and Tifa are incredible characters who are good for Cloud, the rest of the party, and are important to the overall plot of the story. Diminishing both into roles of being romantic rivals is really diminishing their impact as characters and as a part of the story. In fact, in an interview, Briana White, who is the voice actress for Aerith, said this about the shipping wars. "I'm generally not the kind of person who would say, oh, my way is the only correct way. And I think a lot of people get into these arguments because they have not seen the other side of things. I think they should. I love that people are passionate about the characters, and I really don't care if one person has a preference for one ship over another, but I do encourage them to be nice about it. If you think your way is the only way, that's incorrect. If you're going to be mean about it, that's also incorrect. That's just wrong. So I try to stay out of it as much as possible, but I do insert myself just enough to say, hey, be nice." That's the official word from Briana White, the voice of Aerith. Be nice. Since I have met both Britt Baron and Briana White, who voices Tifa and Aerith respectively, I can tell you that they want us to be respectful about the characters they play and to other people in the fandom. I'm glad that Briana said this in an interview because it's gotten too far out of hand. In fact, the remake games really showcase how much Tifa and Aerith care about each other and are truly best friends. And a lot of this was lost in the OG because in the OG, we were looking at 2D polygon models and were limited to poorly localized dialogue where it was really hard to dive deep into the nuances of these characters and their relationships. And unfortunately, Tifa and Aerith's friendship was one of the ones that was lost in translation back then. So the developers could have easily played into the discourse of the fandom and pitted them against each other, but they didn't. Instead, with the new technological advances that we have now, they developed their friendship into a really wholesome one, which now stands out as a great example of a great female relationship. So now there are even many in the fandom who ship them with each other, and I even do sometimes. So I decided that it was time that the relationship got some love and attention. In fact, I found that there are so many good moments between these two characters that I felt like one video wouldn't do them justice, and in fact doing a full one video about their relationship would be way too long. So today will be part 1, which will focus on the start of their friendship as was explored in Remake. Part 2 will focus on traces of 2 pasts and Rebirth. So if you want to get notified of when that video will be out, please click the subscribe button and the bell. As a disclaimer, I'm going to be mainly focusing on Tifa's and Aerith's friendship and not really touch on the love triangle debate with Cloud. So without further ado, let's talk about the two heroines of the story. When Cloud and Aerith are about to part ways so he could return to Sector 7, a chocobo wagon carrying a dressed up Tifa comes through. Cloud rushes over to her and hops on the back to talk to her. She explains that she's going to see Don Corneo and to not worry because he knows that she can kick ass. So Cloud decides to let her go. When he turns around, he sees Aerith looking at him sternly with hands on her hips, telling him that he needs to go after her. He tells her that Tifa can handle him, But Aerith adamantly disagrees because she's been in Sector 5 for so long that she knows Don Corneo's reputation all too well. Not only would Tifa be going to see a crime boss, but be in a mansion full of his thugs who would definitely try to take advantage of her. Aerith is worried, so she insists that he has to help her. She hasn't even met Tifa yet, and already she wants to help. She's so adamant about Cloud helping Tifa that she grabs his hand with both of hers, pulls him, and urges him to go help. So, he relents. In Wall Market, she takes the lead by questioning Chocobo Sam about where Tifa was taken. When they go to Corneo's mansion the first time, she's quick to volunteer to go inside as a woman, despite Leslie's warnings, and her own knowledge about Don Corneo. She insists on getting into the audition, despite Cloud's misgivings about her getting involved. She's so determined that she fights alongside him during the Coliseum tournament to earn the dress and endorsement from Madame M, and even makes Cloud go to the Honeybee Inn for Andrea Rodea's endorsement, and to cross-dress so he can also help Tifa. When they wake up in Corneo's mansion and find Tifa, Aerith quickly goes over to her and talks to her as if they have been friends for a while. At first, Tifa is hesitant since she doesn't know Aerith yet, so Aerith introduces herself, tells her that they were worried and wanted to help her. While Tifa explains to Cloud that she's there to ask the Dawn about why they're asking around about Avalanche, Aerith is listening intently. When she finishes, Aerith reassures her that since they're all there for the audition, whoever gets it can ask. Tifa expresses that she feels bad about getting Aerith involved since they just met. Cloud tells her that there's no point in talking Aerith out of it. When Tifa and Aerith aren't chosen by Donald Trump Corneo, I mean, look at his hair, they are turned over to the henchmen to have their fun. Aerith said that she's good to go whenever, and asked if Tifa is. So she said, 4 guys between us? Okay, let's not keep Cloud waiting. One of the guys recognizes Aerith from the Coliseum, and they start to kick their asses, fighting really well together. After the battle, they compliment each other in their fighting style and high-five. They are already friends with amazing chemistry. When Corneo asks his men to come in and teach Cloud some manners, Tifa and Aerith barge in instead, saying that they needed to teach the men some manners. Together, Cloud and Aerith help Tifa interrogate Donald Corneo. After they get dropped into the sewers, in my playthrough, I had Cloud go to Tifa first, since I shipped them. And when he does, she says that she didn't want to drag Aerith into this, but they needed to go back to the slums. Cloud tells her that he thinks that she'll understand. I won't go more into this conversation since that would be getting too far into the love triangle debate, and as I've expressed before, this is not the video for that. After Aerith wakes up, Tifa expresses her worries about if Shinra is really going to drop the plate or if Corneo is lying. So Aerith urges that they all go and find out one way or another. In the sewers, Tifa guides them through, and when they use the waterway to make a bridge, Cloud crosses first. As he's moving, Tifa confides in Aerith about how she can't stop worrying about what Corneo said. Aerith replies, I know, me too, and listens while Tifa says that it has to be a trick. But what if he was telling the truth? So they have to get there in time to stop it. Aerith says, right, and looks down. Picking up that Aerith is keeping something from her, Tifa asks her if there is something that she's not telling her. And I felt like this was huge. Tifa is very intuitive, so she can already tell that something is up with Aerith. Just then, Cloud finishes crossing and calls for them to hurry over. Tifa says that she'll go first, and then tells Aerith to cross. As Aerith is struggling with her balance, Tifa watches with concern and encourages her to keep going. When Aerith is about to fall, Tifa grabs her hand and pulls her to the other side. It's a very sweet moment. Aerith thanks her for saving her, and Tifa said, it's the least I could do. When they continue, Tifa tells herself to focus, and Aerith asks her if she's still thinking about the plate. Tifa confirms this, so Aerith said, the future isn't set in stone. Tifa hopes she's right. Then, Aerith suggests that she thinks of something fun to do after saving Sector 7. Tifa says, "Go shopping, topside." She lights up talking about getting stuff for the bar. Aerith asks if she could come too, and Tifa says, "You better." "Then it's a date," Aerith replies. Then they suggest that Cloud carries their shopping. Clueless as always, Cloud asks, "What was that about me?" Tifa says, "Nothing," and they laugh. I love this part so much because of the natural chemistry between the three. It's very realistic to this kind of dynamic, but I especially love the development of Tifa's and Aerith's friendship here. And I really wish they were able to go on that shopping date together. While they continue along, the ground starts to break underneath them, and Aerith grabs Tifa's hand to get them to safety. However, Cloud isn't fast enough to reach them, and the ground starts to crumble beneath him. Quickly, Aerith extends her staff to him, and with Tifa's help, they pull him up together. They continue along until a sewage blockage stops their progress. Tifa talks about how she used to use a hand pump to do that at the bar, so she decides to go fix it. Before Cloud can volunteer to help, Tifa asks Aerith instead and tells Cloud to stay and watch for more red lights. They go off to fix it, and I thought that they would take a moment to talk about Cloud, but they didn't, and I think that it was for the best. This stage of their friendship was all about establishing trust through working together. I believe that at this point, Tifa already knows that Aerith is kind, but she also needs to know that Aerith is reliable. They're able to progress and eventually find the exit from the sewers. Before they're able to climb up the ladder, fiends stop their progress. Both Cloud and Tifa square up to fight them and ask Aerith to go first while they fend them off. And I felt like this was an important moment to mention because it shows that Tifa already wants to protect Aerith. After a minute, Cloud then tells Tifa to go too. When he emerges from the sewers, they see the Turks' helicopter. Tifa is tense and worried, and Aerith naturally picks up on this, so she tells her, "Don't worry, we'll make it in time." While they are navigating through the train graveyard, Tifa is scared of ghosts, but Aerith is sympathetic towards one of them, who appears to be a child, and I felt like they both picked up on this. When they make it to the control panel room, the electricity turns off. Aerith calls out to Tifa and protectively goes in front of her as the ghosts gather. I think it's a sweet moment since Aerith already picked up on the fact that Tifa is scared of ghosts and she wants to help reassure her. The party manages to fend off the ghost boss and gets through the graveyard. When they are almost out of there, and while they're moving a train, they pick up a radio transmission from the Turks talking about dropping the plate and how Avalanche was fighting them. While listening to the confirmation that Tifa's fears were, in fact, happening, she's naturally in a bad state, so both Cloud and Aerith reassure her to keep moving. Before they could leave, the ghosts swirl around, taking Aerith away. There, she's with the ghost that she feels connected to, and she can see that he's trying to help. Then she sees apparitions of children and her childhood self. They're playing hide and seek, but soon Aerith is alone and no one is looking for her. She squats on the ground, crying in her loneliness. So adult Aerith also starts crying. Just then, Cloud calls to her and rescues her from Eligor. Tifa then touches her shoulder and says, "Hey, we found you." She grabs her hand and helps her get up before the fight against Eligor. And Aerith replies, "I guess you did." I always get choked up during this part because Aerith finally has true friends who will find her. And that friend is especially Tifa. And I related to this because growing up, I was a shy kid and was left out until I found my best friend who made sure I wasn't a loner anymore. Over 20 years have passed and we are still best friends. Similarly, Aerith was always alone as a child and only had the orphans from the Leaf House to play with. But besides that, she was pretty isolated. Tifa is now a real friend, so this is huge for her, especially considering what happens later in the plot. During the Eligor fight, before he can shoot Aerith with a laser, Tifa grabs her and pushes them to safety. I love how much they look out for each other, especially in times of danger. When they defeat Eligor and find the fence to Sector 7, Tifa runs to the fence saying, "We made it." As she sees the helicopter, she looks more and more distressed and grips the fence with her gloved hands. Aerith rushes over to put a hand on her shoulder in comfort. She looks on her with worry as Tifa talks about the plate being dropped and angrily runs towards the pillar. With a hand outstretched, Aerith calls out to her and then runs after her. When they reach the square, whispers stop them, so Aerith pleads with them to let them through. She says that they'll have to get past whatever it takes. They fight them and eventually make it through. When they make it to the base of the pillar, Wedge falls from the plate. Cloud tells them to stay with Wedge while he goes up to help the others. While he is going up, debris from the pillar falls towards them, so Tifa kicks it out of the way. Aerith thanks her. However, Tifa's mind is on the pillar, so she apologizes and says that she can't stay. She has to help them. So Aerith says, "Go. Follow your heart." Before she leaves, she turns around and tells Aerith, "There's a bar called Seven Heaven. I need you to get Marlene to safety, right?" Aerith finishes for her. "It's okay. I'll find her." In response, Tifa grabs her hands and nods gratefully. She turns to Wedge and asks him to take her to the bar. With a thumbs up, he tells her that he will, and to go up there and kick Shinra's ass. Wedge starts to guide Aerith, but ends up helping with the evacuation, so she tells him that she can go find it on her own. On the way to the bar, she helps with the evacuation, and even tells Marl, who ends up spearheading it. Marl asks her if she's Avalanche, and she responds with, "Just a friend." Marl tells her to tell Tifa to lay low, and that she'll take care of things there. This is huge because Marl is a huge part of Tifa's story in Midgar. I will talk about this more when I'll make the video about Traces of Two Paths, but it's thanks to Marl that Tifa finds the bar and meets Barrett in the first place. She is like a grandmother figure to Tifa, and she can tell who has pure intentions towards her. And through this short exchange, you can tell that she already knows that Aerith is a true friend to Tifa and trusts her to get a message to her. After this, Aerith goes through great lengths to get to the bar, even navigating through explosions and rescuing Marlene's friend Betty. She eventually reaches the bar where she finds Marlene. When Marlene asks her who she is, she introduces herself as a friend of Tifa's, and that Tifa is with Cloud and Barrett. She further explains that Tifa asked her to find her because Barrett can't get to her yet. The bar isn't safe, so she has to take her somewhere safer. When Marlene is sad about losing the bar, which is her home, Aerith hugs her and reassures her about making a new home. Eventually, Marlene sees what will happen to Aerith, but that's for a different video. After putting a finger to her lips, she holds out her hand to Marlene, who hugs her legs and says she smells like a flower, and points to the flower she gave to Cloud, who gave it to Tifa. She smiles and says, "I hope you'll remember it," which I think she's referring to the meaning of the flower, which is, "We'll meet again." I also think that this flower exists as a symbol of the glue that keeps the three of them together, Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith. As they are walking to the exit of the bar, Aerith tells her that they'll plant lots of flowers at her new house. They are stopped by helicopter lights, and Sung comes to the door. Instinctively, she has Marlene get behind her to protect her, tells her not to be scared, and then makes a deal with Sung. Afterwards, she leaves the bar with Marlene. When Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett reach the top of the pillar and defeat Reno and Rude, they find that they are too late. Sung transmits to tell them that, and Aerith cuts in telling Tifa that she found Marlene. Sung has her taken away before she could say where she is. He then explains that the Ancient is now in their custody. As the plate drops, they all take a zipline down to safety. When they land and see the aftermath of the tragedy, Tifa and Barrett hug, and Cloud chooses that moment to tell him that Marlene is safe thanks to Aerith. Tifa vouches for this, saying that she had asked her to find her and take her somewhere safe. So after that, they all head to Aerith's house together. At the house, Elmira tells them that Shinra has Aerith. Tifa then apologizes to her because she had asked her to get Marlene. They had just met, but she was kind and helpful, so Tifa feels bad for taking advantage of her. I really like the self-awareness that Tifa shows here because it shows how she genuinely cares about Aerith and understands, at least somewhat, the gravity of the situation and the sacrifice that Aerith made. Elmira tells her that it's not her fault and it was only a matter of time. She then tells the story of how they came to be a family, which I will talk about this more when I make the videos about Aerith's story and Traces of Two Paths, but essentially they made a deal with the Turks back then for her to come when she had information about the Promised Land. So the fact that she made a new deal to go with them in exchange for Marlene's safety at Tifa's request is a huge deal. After Elmira tells the story, she requests that they don't go to the Shinra building and make things worse for Aerith. She fears losing Aerith too. Tifa then talks Cloud down by telling him that they should wait. She really wants to be respectful of Elmira's wishes. Later, they bring an injured Wedge back to Aerith's house. There, Cloud pleads with Elmira again to let them go get Aerith. When his words about what Shinra would do to her distresses Elmira, Tifa touches his arm and nods for him to stop. Elmira then tells them to get some rest while she takes the time to think about this. When they discuss it the next morning, Tifa agrees with Cloud that they can all feel Aerith calling out to them and to please let them go get her. She tells her, "She's our friend. We have to help her." Seeing that Aerith has true friends that she trusts, Elmira relents and asks them to bring her back home. The party eventually acquires grappling guns to get up to the top of the plate to the Shinra building in order to rescue Aerith. When they're about to start going up, Tifa says that Aerith is up there waiting for them. It's really clear that rescuing Aerith is her top priority at this point. When they enter the Shinra building, with worry etched on her face, Tifa asks Cloud if he has any idea where they would be holding Aerith. He says that she would probably be in a research facility towards the top. So Tifa gets through to the reception box. They go up as far as they could, acquire more key cards, and eventually even get the mayor's help. They eventually eavesdrop on a Shinra meeting while they are in the air ducts. When they hear about Hojo's plans to psychologically damage Aerith and breed her with soldiers, Tifa seems very upset by this, naturally. When they find Aerith in Hojo's lab and release her, Tifa immediately rushes to her to make sure she's okay. Later, when they are in her room, Aerith explains that she's the last Cetra, and then whispers come and surround her. She explains that Shinra isn't the biggest threat, and she wants to help them all and the planet. Tifa once again asks what she's not telling them. So Aerith explains that she feels lost in a maze, and every time the whispers touch her, she loses a part of herself. Tifa pulls her out of the ring and whispers and tell her that it's okay. They'll find a way out of the maze together. I really love this moment because Tifa is trying to show Aerith that she can trust her, that she's not alone in her burden, and that she's not alone in her burden anymore, and Tifa wants to help her as much as she can. In Hojo's lab, they are separated from the party and work together to help Cloud and the others during Hojo's tests. When Tifa expresses worry about Cloud, Aerith assures her that he's probably okay, but asks how she's doing, clearly worried about her emotional state after the plate dropping. Tifa laughs awkwardly, saying that she's fine. I also love this moment because Tifa is kind of a mother-like figure in the party. She usually is worried about everybody else's well-being and doesn't check in so much on herself. And Aerith already understands this, so she's there. She's there to check on Tifa and make sure that Tifa is okay for a change. Later, when they escape the Shinra building and reach Destiny's Crossroads, Aerith makes her speech asking for their help with saving the planet from Sephiroth and his plans. Tifa doesn't hesitate and is the first on board after Cloud agrees. And it's the same thing in the endgame cutscene after Aerith says something. I love how this game really establishes the blossoming of their friendship. Aerith starts off with wanting to save Tifa from Corneo, and Tifa returns the favor by rescuing her from Hojo's lab. They both truly care about each other's emotional well-being. Aerith truly listens and helps Tifa when she's worried about losing Sector 7, which was her second home. Tifa wants to be a true friend to Aerith, who never really had friends before, and wants to repay her for all her kindness. She can also tell that Aerith is under a heavy burden that she can't tell them about, and she wants her to know that she can trust her to help. Aerith's no longer alone. She has Tifa now, and the rest of the party, of course. And Aerith gains the trust of Tifa's grandmotherly figure, Marl, and Tifa gains the trust of Aerith's mother figure, Elmira, pretty quickly, which is a huge testament to how sincere they are towards each other and their friendship. And reading about their stories and traces of two pasts really deepened the context of this friendship for me. In Aerith's story, she talks about how horrible growing up in Hojo's lab was, and how her mom was experimented on and ended up wasting away until she died during their escape. Aerith feared going back there and being subject to that, so Elmira made a deal with the Turks so she wouldn't have to. That's why her making a deal to go back there so that Marlene would be safe, which Tifa trusted her to do that, was a huge deal. Tifa wasn't going to take that lightly, so she did whatever she could in order to rescue Aerith. I love this friendship so much, so I really wish for the toxicity and the fandom to stop when it comes to the love triangle debate. I know that every fandom has its toxic fans, and making 2 videos about this topic isn't going to do much to stop that. However, I still feel it's important to have this conversation out there. It is a sad reality that women are constantly being pitted against each other. We tear ourselves and each other down, and I can't stay silent and watch that anymore. Tifa and Aerith have a very strong friendship, and they respect each other's feelings and desires. Of course, they both have a soft spot for Cloud, however, they don't let him get between them. They don't have ulterior motives or passively aggressively undermine each other to gain the upper hand and gain his affections. So we as a fandom shouldn't be doing that either. It's okay to have opinions and interpretations about who loves who and blah blah blah. But it's absolutely not okay to be vicious and hateful towards those who don't share your opinions and interpretations. The characters wouldn't want that, and the voice actresses are now even saying that they don't want that. Briana shouldn't have had to say this, but it's gone that bad, unfortunately, that she had to say something. It's even gotten so bad that it's become easier for people to not like these characters. And to be honest, I even got sucked in for a while, and Aerith annoyed me for a bit. It took me meeting her fucking voice actress to realize how stupid I was to feel like that, and to regain an appreciation for her character. It really shouldn't have gone to that point, and I sincerely apologize for allowing myself to be sucked into this negativity. So now I feel it's really important to focus on kindness and their friendship, because at the end of the day, these are fictional characters, and we really need to stop being so worked up that we resort to immature and hateful behavior over fucking fictional relationships. So let's all try to be better about this. So thank you so much for watching. I'll have a part 2 up soon, which will go into how they confided in each other during their journey, which brought about the book Traces of Two Paths, as well as the continued development of their very strong friendship during Rebirth. Please like, comment, and subscribe, but please be respectful towards one another. It's absolutely okay to disagree, but please don't resort to name-calling and hateful comments. I am not above reporting and removing comments, so you've been warned. In fact, I request that you please focus on what you like most about Aerith and Tifa's friendship during Remake, or your favorite scene of the two. I love engaging with you all and hearing your thoughts and theories, so I look forward to having healthy discussions with you all in the comments. And with that, I will be back with part 2 soon. Bye!